Good afternoon, everyone. Hello, hello. How are you doing? It is Friday. Yes, we've made it. Isn't God good? Another Friday, February the 26th, 2021. It's the last day that I'm going to be celebrating still my 50th birthday. Hey, I celebrated all week. I turned 50 in the midst of a pandemic. Couldn't have my friends and family together with me. Had to do a virtual Zoom party, so I just had to stretch it out and make it last. I am grateful. I'm so grateful that God has given us yet another beautiful day. The sun was shining here in snowy Chicago for us to be able to come live with you. The I Am That Woman movement and retreat, bringing you information about holistic wellness, mind, body, and spirit. Yes, we want to make sure that you are living your best life by giving you resources, information, and events. That's all about your mental, emotional, financial, physical, and spiritual wellness. You know, you spend so much of your time pouring into everybody else. You're taking care of the kids, the husband, you're taking care of the community, the church, you're taking care of everybody else. Are you appropriately taking care of you? How have you practiced self-love today? What have you affirmed today? I started my day with our mindfulness, our mindful Mondays. I hope you can join us sometime, but every day is a mindful morning for me. 5:30 a.m. You can join me for a guided meditation. This week's meditation was about motivation, and man, it did a job on me. I have been so motivated. I knocked out 3 certifications, joined 2 industry organizations. I was checking stuff off the list, and I truly believe it was because every day this week I was affirming my motivation, telling my inner self that I am motivated to do what I need to do, even when I don't feel like doing it. And guess what? I got it done. So morning mindfulness works. From 5:30 to 6, we are doing a guided meditation. 6 a.m. to 6:30, we are in prayer. There's no better way to start your day. If you don't have an hour, take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, take 15 minutes. But guess what? God takes his time every day. Why don't you give him some of your time? Give back the one who gives life to you. We do some deep cleansing breaths because there's nothing like breathing, letting it in and letting it out, just allowing you to be still, be quiet, and be open. It is life transformational. That's what the I Am That Woman movement and retreat is all about, helping you to get and stay renewed, revived, and restored. Because this year we are transforming. Don't allow this pandemic to keep you back from aspiring to and doing anything that you want or need to do. So with that, I'm super excited, as I always am. I said it on my social media. You know, there are some guests that I'm excited about, and then there's other guests that I'm super excited about. So today, I'm super excited about our guest, Deborah Olivia Farmer, a dear girlfriend of mine. She is a sister in the sisterhood of the I Am That Woman movement and retreat. She has helped me in so many ways. February has been about love and forgiveness. This woman has loved me. She has supported me. She's been at every retreat, both working and participating, and I have appreciated her love and support. So today, I wanted us to show her some love and support as we're going to be talking about her journey of showing love through adoption. Yes, Deborah she has Joshua, whom she adopted. I was going to say she doesn't have her natural kids, but you know what? When God blesses you and when we hear her story, this is her natural son. She has had him since birth. I'm not going to get too far into her journey because I want her to share it. Hello, Shai. Hello, Valerie. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope others will tune in and hear about this miraculous story of adoption and how you too, even if you haven't considered it, you might consider it. With that being said, before I introduce my guest, I want to share a video with you. It's just a little 3-minute news clip from a news show in a news broadcast in Tennessee. I will share this clip with you now so you can see and experience what it means to have the heart of adoption.
Plenty has been put on hold during the pandemic, but there are still people who need a helping hand when the going gets tough. Forrest Sanders shares the story of a Tennessee family who recently decided to open their hearts and their home to a very special young man.
Please be a quarterback. Marcus Mariota.
You know, Andrew and Jock didn't become best friends the first day they met, or really the second.
Andrew, who should our quarterback be?
But the third day, they began to realize.
We had like a lot of stuff in common. Games, Minecraft.
And that's not all.
I don't want to say it.
Say what?
Pop-Tarts. They love Pop-Tarts.
We need more Pop-Tarts. We do.
Around the Batcave, it's video games. Break for Pop-Tarts. Repeat.
Tart, and they eat all day if you let them all day. Tart.
Keeping up with the appetite of two preteen boys, his Jock's mom and dad, Kevin and Dominique Gill.
As the years went on, they got pretty close. It's always good to see that bond that they grew.
But the truth is, this friendship isn't as simple as just video games and Pop-Tarts.
Your best.
Andrew has lived in foster care about half his life. And more than 8,000 children are in that foster system in Tennessee, waiting for a forever home.
They really want that stability in their lives.
Molly Parker's with Youth Villages. She tells us the pandemic is slowing the calls coming in for possible homes.
And a lot of families were unsure if they wanted to open their homes to a placement just because they didn't really know what the future held.
But to that, the Gills want to tell you something. You see, a few years ago, they became Andrew's foster family. But he eventually left here.
Oh man, I didn't care.
That's not true.
I'm just playing with you. I missed him. Just really love him.
And so comes this. Molly and Andrew on a walk through the park. Andrew realizes. What's happening?
I just turned around the corner and saw everybody.
It's a celebration, y'all. Hype it up.
The Gills ask Andrew if he'll become a forever part of their family.
They asked, will you? And I said, yeah.
Button, please, one. Before I scream. I will scream.
When we see them together, we're glad we decided to adopt Andrew.
And now, Jock and Andrew share the Batcave. 2 screens for video games for each. Never too far from never-ending Pop-Tarts.
This is my brother, Jacques. This is my brother, Andrew.
Wasn't that an amazing story? Oh my goodness. Wasn't that an amazing story? Deborah and I watched that like right before I started the show, and thank goodness I have watched it because I got so teary-eyed. So if any of the viewers are watching right now got a little teary-eyed, we definitely understand. Without further ado, to talk about love and adoption, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you to the most infamous media maven I know, Deborah Olivia Farmer.
Hi, how are you?
I am wonderful. How are you, beautiful?
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you for this opportunity.
Absolutely. You know, when I was thinking about love and forgiveness, and I forget what we were talking about, and Deborah and I have been friends for, I said earlier, Moses time, like forever. I don't even remember the first time. I think you were still at NBC.
Yeah, maybe even WGN. I mean, it's been a very long time since we've been friends.
It's been a long time. I think I was doing some work for Rainbow Push and probably was doing some media relations. And so God just saw that he wanted to bring these 2 beautiful Black women who are inspiring the world to come together. So how have you been?
I've been great. No complaints.
Good.
No
Good.
complaints. No, all is well.
That is good. So Deborah, thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. So we're talking about adoption, but tell us a little bit about who you are and your background and like before Josh. What was that life like?
Absolutely. So I am, born and raised Chicago. I grew up in the suburb of Riverdale. I have a pretty strong roots on the south side of Chicago in the Roseland community. I went to Thornton Township High School, where I fell in love with the radio and television broadcasting industry. We had the coolest radio and TV program in high school. So from there, I went on to Lewis University, where that's what I majored in, radio and television broadcasting. I ran track, very involved in a lot of social service organizations on campus. I pledged Delta Sigma Theta sorority.
Yes, there's only
on
one.
campus, yes. Very involved with the student government. So at my core, I'm a giver. I'm always finding ways to give back. For fun, I love going to the movies. I'm a movie buff. I can't tell you if there's a particular genre that I love most. But again, I just love entertainment. I love the media industry, of course. And I can get more into my process with Joshua. We can talk about that.
Yes, great background. I know you've had an amazing background in media, started your own company, so
Yes.
became an entrepreneur, left NBC, left WGN, so left the corporate world, started your own. How long have you had your business?
So I started my business in 2014, actually. I worked in television, as you mentioned, for quite a bit of time. I worked at WGN Television as a producer. I worked segment producer for the morning show. I was actually the very first intern on the morning show. So that's how long ago I worked at WGN. I left GN and went over to NBC5, where I was a community affairs director. So I worked there for 8 years, and then I took a leap of faith and started my business in communications. Yeah.
Leap of faith. And talk about leap of faith. That's not the only leap of faith that you have taken.
Yeah.
So you took a major leap of faith through love. Deborah, did you always know that you wanted to adopt?
I did.
You did.
I did, yeah. So, while working in television, of course, you get an opportunity to meet a lot of nice people, right? A lot of different folks from different backgrounds and so forth. So I had met a young man named Claude Robinson at UCAN, which is ULIC Children's Advantage Network. And so what I found out there is the foster care system. I was introduced to foster care through UCAN. I reached out to Claude. I said, hey, listen, I want to mentor or tutor someone. I want to be involved. And I was introduced to a young lady by the name of Sharina Green, who it was to start as a 1-year relationship of me actually just tutoring her after school, picking her up. And then it grew from there. It literally was to be 1 year. And I can tell you, I started mentoring her at the age of 8. She's now 27. And she's still very much involved in our lives. It went from, going to the movies, which again, I love on the weekends, spending some quality time with her there, coming to church with me. She really became just a staple, in my life, introducing her to my family and to my friends. And so when I saw what she went through with foster care, I knew this was something that I wanted to do. She had been in various foster homes, unfortunately, because you have to find the right fit for the child and the foster family. And so she sadly was not in the right situation. So she was sort of bounced around from home to home. And so, again, this was in the late 90s when I was introduced to foster care. And I knew this was something I always wanted to do, was to foster a child, to one day adopt a child.
Wow. So you always knew it. Now, because you had a little bit of background, because one of my questions was about, what your experience actually matched what you knew that you were going to go through. But you had a little bit of experience because of the foster care system. So, but when did this all start? So take us through the process. Like, how do you sign up? And I know you've given us some resources.
Absolutely. Yeah. So when I knew I was ready to actually foster, I got my foster care license. That's the first step that you want to take. So that I had to go to classes, foster care classes. I took my classes on a Saturday, consecutive Saturdays, I think for like 6 months or so.
Wow.
The agency that I was with again at the time, where I was introduced to foster care, was UCAN. But I went through one agency, which I won't name because I ended up transferring my license from that agency to another. But again, you want to start with getting your foster care license, going to the classes, finding out all the ins and the outs as it relates to fostering a child. The objective for foster care is to reunite the child with the family. Okay, so just do have that understanding. I don't want people to think that, oh, I can go foster a child and then I can have this child to stay with me forever. It is a process. You are literally serving as a pass-through, if you will, just keeping the child in a position of being safe until they're able to reunite them with their home, with their biological family. That doesn't always happen. So that is how I was able to thankfully adopt Joshua, because when we went through the process of fostering, they knew he wasn't to be reunited with that family because of other children that were in the foster care system, his siblings. So that's where you start. You get your foster care license. My recommendation is that you do your research. You have to do your research because let's just be quite clear. There are over 400,000 kids, children, kids, teenagers in the foster care system. Okay. So just imagine the caseloads that these agencies have and the social workers have. So oftentimes they may not be in the best position to give you that attention that you need. So that's why, again, you have to do your research, making sure that you get with the agency that will have your best interest at heart.
Wow. So do your research, match yourself up with an agency that has your best interest at heart. It sounds like anything else, job search, school search, like you really want to make sure that you are working with people who, care for the kids, the type of system that they're in. So after you have your license, you've made this decision. What happens next?
So, you go through the process where they have to come and actually screen your home. You have to do a background check. Right. So to your point, it's like anything, you have to get references. Right. And so even in your references, you want to make certain that you get people that can speak to your character. They want to know that you not only have love in your heart, but actually have capacity, because sometimes these children may come from situations that might not be most ideal and you might not have the wherewithal to handle those situations. Again, you learn a lot of that through the fostering process when you go through the classes. But again, they are digging through your background, making sure that you have, no issues on your credit, not so much your credit, but your background, but even your closest network of friends. They may even talk to them to make sure that, they are pairing you with the right child through what they find out about you.
Okay. All right. Great. How long does it take for placement? Does it just really kind of depend?
It really depends. It varies. I mean, I can just tell you from my scenario, right? So I initially, when I was going through this process, as a single woman, right? And I was looking to get a girl. So that was my plan. I wanted a little girl. I figured this would be something that I could handle. When I got married, I had my then husband to go through the process as well. And so we became open to either a girl or a boy. And so in that, we initially had a girl and they kept calling us with boys. Hey, we have a 5-year-old boy, or we have a 10-year-old boy. That was the reason I changed my agency, because I was specific that if we were going to do a boy or a girl, we wanted a newborn to 2-year-old.
Okay.
They kept calling us with families, like, hey, we have 5 kids for you. And so I just did not feel that they really
were listening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're listening. And so in that, we got a boy because we became open to that. But that process, again, could change. It could be, 5 months for one person. It could be 2 weeks, right? It just really depends.
Now, did you foster any children before you started your adoption, or you wanted to go straight into adoption?
No, I did not. I was very clear on what I wanted. And this is why I'm advocating for fostering to adopt a child. Everyone's situation is different. So I can't tell you that you're going to have the same situation. I was blessed to get Joshua at birth. That is so rare. So I want to make certain that we're clear on that.
Yeah.
But in that, I had probably after getting my license, 6 months or so, we got placed. It wasn't a very long time, but there was still no guarantee that he would be, we had to go through the process. And this is one of the other pieces I want to make sure that for anyone that's considering this, to do your research, because we actually had to go to court for Joshua's bio dad to have his rights terminated as a parent. Okay. And so there's an organization called CASA, Court Appointed Special Advocates. And so I went for a year to court for Joshua to get his rights terminated. His bio dad, sadly, and so this is another reason why my scenario is a little different than others. Joshua's had other siblings in the system, okay? 2 other siblings. So that's why when Joshua's bio mom gave birth to him, they knew that they weren't going to reunite him with that family because she already had 2 other children in the system. So I was blessed enough to get a child that was no way that child was going back to that particular family, okay?
I see.
The other side of it, then she passed away.
Oh no.
He passed away 4 days after he was born. So when I tell you God, he gives you what you can handle. He knew very sadly, and I'm not saying that I'm not preparing Joshua for that, but that's something I don't have to be concerned with. The bio dad was not fit to be a parent. They gave him an opportunity to go through parenting classes, domestic violence classes. He did none of that. And so we had to wait for the process for the courts to terminate his rights to get him as our child after foster.
Wow, what an amazing story. Deborah, you have this has been a spiritual journey for you as well. So I know you told the story about Claude and his organization and what UCAN did, but even in knowing that you wanted to foster, I remember you sharing a little bit about the spiritual story down to his name.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, you have a great memory. So, when we got the call for Joshua, and my brother, I'll tell you, played an integral part in this. We got a call for a boy, and I called my brother. I'm like, what am I to do? Like, do I take this boy? Like, I don't want a boy, I want a girl. And my brother was like, you cannot determine the sex of the child. If you want a child, you want a child. Yeah. And so I had to be open to that. When we got the call, and that weekend before we were placed, I could not get it out of my head. Joshua fought the Battle of Jericho. The song was pounding in my head so strong. And so I said, well, when we get placed and we get the child, we're going to name him Joshua. And it was really from the perspective of God giving us strength, to have courage. And so when we got placed, Joshua in the Bible days was in Sinai, okay? Our Joshua, the bio mom had him at home, but then they took him to Sinai Hospital, Mount Sinai.
Wow.
So just even that connection, right? So there were just so many things where his hand was all over us, all over Joshua, even to going to have Joshua to get his, shots and, checkups and things of that sort. One time I took him to the hospital and the doctor said, now he had already seen Joshua's siblings, so he knew Joshua's story. He said, thank you so much for giving this child a chance. It was just so many scenarios like that. Even the day that we finally got the call, I was at Fellowship Baptist Church for their women's retreat, and I was with my girlfriend, Benita, who you know.
Yes.
In that, Dorinda Clark was speaking, and her message was about Joshua in Sinai. It was so many things that points to the point where we were like, this is nothing. God's hand is all over this.
Wow, what an amazing story. When both of us were watching the news clip before we came on, I literally started tearing up because you even said something after we watched the news clip, and I said, man, I'm glad I didn't start that as soon as the show started. I probably would have started crying. But one of the things that you were surprised, both of us were surprised about as they were showing just the boys in the beginning, we thought that it was the little black boy that was going to be adopted by the white family, right? And so you don't see this very often. You said 400,000 kids are in the foster care system. Do you know the statistics, Deborah, on Black kids that's in the system?
I don't know those percentages because they change so much. So just when I look at fostering in itself and looking at the agencies, and whether it be Tennessee, which is what that video showed, or in Illinois, the numbers fluctuate so much. I can just tell you from the perspective of those that get adopted, it's not even half of them.
Wow.
Many of them, unfortunately, stay in foster care and then they age out. And when you age out of the system, which is not an ideal situation for any child to be bounced around, but then when they age out of the system, they're sort of just at the mercy of whatever happens to them. Wow. There's no resources to catch them. And so that's another layer of this story, is then how then do we find resources for kids after 18, after they've aged out? You know, how do we find ways to support them? Many of them end up homeless. Many of them end up in, you know, situations that are not, you know,
ideal, sex trafficking,
absolutely,
gay, drugs. Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Homeless. Yes.
Yeah. And I'm sure the statistics, like you said, you wanted a baby, and God blessed you with Joshua, who is adorable. I call him my little adoptive nephew. We do not spend enough time together, but, you know, knowing that what you were praying for, and God gave you exactly that. And it doesn't always happen like that, but that is such a beautiful story and a beautiful blessing. What would you tell someone else who is considering adoption or who's considering fostering? What do you have to have? This story is about love, and you certainly have to have a lot of love. But, you know, what else? I've seen those commercials that's like, you know, no parent is a perfect parent. Sometimes we think, you know, oh, I don't have time. Or you think, you know, oh, I don't know if my life can, you know, fit a kid into it. But what would you encourage those who might be thinking about it or not thinking about it, what to consider?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think, you know, when I look at the reason for me not only naming him Joshua, but just the whole path of love and just having courage, our, you know, tagline, if you will, is Joshua 1:9, be strong and have courage. Like, you know, and so I would just say, have faith, knowing, because not only does it say be strong and have good courage, but God is with you. So my recommendation to anyone that's even considering this is to move out of your own way. I think we are so driven by ego, right? When you think about most people that choose not to do this, they have so many excuses, and it's excuses about themselves. Oh, I don't know if I can handle this, or I don't have enough space. That's all ego driven, right? Even when you think about down to the child, well, I don't know what type of child I will get. You don't know what type of child you would have if you had a biological child. You can't assume that because you have a biological child, you're not going to have issues along down the line. So I think that if you can just remove your ego, right, and just look at it from a place of love. And one thing that I want to do is really have us to get over this stigma that is these children are neglected. That is such an act of love for someone to say, I cannot take care of you. I'm going to give you to someone else to do that. Not give you up, not throw you away. You find that some adopted children later in life struggle with abandonment issues and things of that sort. If we can even just change that storyline, it's not about neglecting you. It's about having enough sense to know that I cannot do all that I need to do for you. I'm going to provide you to someone else to do that. Right. And so it's the giver, it's the gift. And so looking at it from that perspective as well, and the receiver.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it's been a blessing for you.
Absolutely.
I mean, Joshua has been a fulfillment for you in what you knew that you always wanted. And so, you know, I don't have kids. There's so many of us, even in our circle, who don't have kids, or may even have the room, you know, to take care of and nurture, you know, a child who is in need. And certainly, you know, the resources and what type of information or what type of resources does the system provide? Like, did you get resources on parenting?
Yes. Yeah. And so when you go through the foster care process to actually get your license, there's so many resources that they're providing you with, you know, from books and and, pamphlets and things of that sort. But once you even foster the child, they provide you with resources, whether it be WIC or whether it be, if your child needs some therapy, things of that sort, those things are provided to you. And so I say to any, and hear me clearly, this is not to just look at this cavalierly, say, go out and just adopt a child. It's so much more that comes with it. But just remove all the things that you think you can control, because it's not about you. It's really not about you. Yeah. And so you get resources on funding. They do provide you a stipend that might be in a position to help you with the child. Think about this when you were younger, right? So for people who you knew on the block that adopted children, they said, oh, well, they're just adopting them for the check. There's so much more that comes with it beyond that check. But you are provided some financial support as well.
Yeah, I really do hope and wish that there's so many, Medeas out there who we know have been fostering children and have put them in a loving environment. I remember Steve, I'm not going to think of his last name, who was at Walgreens for a while in diversity and inclusion. Yes, and his personal story about adoption, wrote a book about it and everything. And so many different stories, experiences, information. I think adoption, especially in our community, almost has a taboo, because you do hear a lot about, people who have, suffered at the hands of those in some adoption homes. But then there are those that are very loving. That's not going to be Joshua's story. That's not his story now. It's not going to be his story later. I think we do have to take on the consideration to take in our children, because we have to be a village.
Listen,
and I think
that's where it started, Twyla. I mean, if you really think about this, what we're doing is putting some formalities to it by going through this process. You have had cousins that live with you, that were adopted into your family. Yeah. When you look at friends that might have come to stay with you.
So true, Deborah.
Your parents moved into another city and they didn't want to transfer schools. That's your adopted friend, sibling, whatever. We're just putting some formalities to it, making it legal. But we've done this. We need to get back to community. We need to get back to, as you said, it takes a village, because I think that's what's missing. As we look at the time of COVID and being in this pandemic, and you were alone for a year, you could have been with a loving child, right? You could have been in a position to, and you receive so much more than you will ever imagine.
I can imagine.
Hill Harper is someone that just recently adopted as well. And he said it's the biggest blessing ever.
Yeah.
There's so many others. There's I forget his name. He is the football. He said adopting his sister's children was better than winning the Super Bowl.
Wow. Okay? Yeah. Because you're saving a life. I mean, literally you are
saving yours.
And they are saving yours. So tell me about your experience with Joshua. How has it been being a mother?
Oh boy. Interestingly enough, another thing that I learned through this process is to surrender. We're so busy planning and orchestrating our lives. I learned to just surrender and let God, as my dad would say, let God be God. And so in as much as I had the thought I wanted a girl, this boy loves me so much. He loves me so much. When I think about, and this, you're a daddy's girl, boys and their mothers. I knew I needed this. That's why I said finding love through God's grace and adoption. I found a love. He looks at me in such a way. He does this thing where he puts his hand on my heart and he says, "Mommy, I love your heart." What? I never heard no man tell me they love my heart. Girl, you don't sit down somewhere. You hear me?
He's so lovable too.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, he's so lovable and just so kind and so gracious. I put up there any questions for Deborah, and it looks like Shy has a question. Do you still think about adopting a girl?
I do think about it all the time. There's something about girls too, right? I don't necessarily know that I will as a single woman. I mean, I consciously uncoupled, and so there's no, secret about that. Doing that solo, maybe not.
Yeah.
Yeah,
One is a lot.
yeah,
So
and
definitely.
mind you, I did this during a pandemic, like literally
Yeah.
just he and I. Oh,
Yeah, yeah, but it's still been a blessing, and we know that he's a blessing.
yeah,
So, any other questions for Deborah? I want to ask you guys before I transition this conversation. So, Deborah, you have a book coming out.
I do. Yes,
Yes.
the book is to come out next month. And so we're actually going to the top of March, allow you to pre-order the book. For those of you who haven't followed us on social media, on my website, you'll see tons of photos of Joshua, but there are also a lot of blogs that we've written to just sort of, talk and get you prepared for the book. But yes, the book comes out next month. I'm super excited about it.
You're super excited. And is it about your journey? Is it about
It
adoption? Give
is.
us a little sneak peek.
Oh, sure, sure. So it's really what got me here. So, initially when I thought to set out, and let me give you some real reason why I started to do the book. There's so much misinformation about adoption, and there's so much, to be quite honest, ignorance around it. So even through the process when Joshua first came home with us, I'll never forget being at church. And 7:30 in the morning, we're at church at 6:45. And we have this new baby, we're at church. And people were like, where you get that baby from? And so just the ignorance around it, I had to bridle my tongue and explain to people, we adopted, this is where the baby came from. I even had scenarios where people were like, well, I didn't see you pregnant, and there were times where I would go home and literally be in tears. Like,
Wow.
oh my God, this is so awful.
Mm.
So the book initially, it came from that place of just how do I educate us? How do I prepare us to know that there's several ways to skin a cat? But then the other side of it too was, that's cool, but then let's talk about how I got here. So that's why I changed the with to to. So my journey to Joshua. So it really is more of a memoir. Talk about, just past relationships. And really at the core of it all, it's love. For me, the learning was my grandmother had a narrative for our family is what's love have to do with it? She used to say, what's love got to do with it? And when I look back over the course of my life and relationships, I don't really think I knew how to love in a relationship. And so I went on this redemptive path of calling ex-boyfriends and apologizing because I don't necessarily know that I love them properly. And so this has another layer of that, of loving, right? And so at the core of it all, there are two emotions, fear and love.
Wow. What a path. You unraveled a couple things there. I won't go down that road of calling the exes and telling them. But that, clarity is such a powerful thing. I mean, that's one of the things that we do at the retreat is take you through this process for you to get some clarity and, for you to get some understanding about your purpose. It's a blessing that you knew that you had a purpose to love a child.
Yeah.
And even if that child wasn't your natural child, that after your experience with foster care and having that young lady in your life, and still to this day in your life, I've been a mentor, you've been a mentor. We know that it can be life-changing. It's not about us. It is about pouring into someone else. And we do have so many kids out here who need somebody to tell them that they love them, who need somebody to give them a hug, who need someone to, nurture their emotional and mental well-being when they haven't been fortunate enough to be born into a natural home to give them that. And there's a lot of us on this line. Hey, Sharon. Hey, Claire. Hey, Tanisha. Hey, Romina. Hey, Mother Austin and Wanda and Kathleen and Shiree. And, actually, we have a side of my family, our family. And I think almost everyone in that family has adopted. And so we have a lot of adoption in our family. I don't think I've ever talked to you about that.
No, you haven't.
And even my sister called me. Valerie called me, and she's on here. Excuse me, I know I'm getting choked. But Valerie called me because she has a mentee who's going through some situations. And she was like, Twyler, I don't have any kids, I'm not married. Would you consider it to help this young lady out? I immediately thought about you.
Yeah.
Immediately. And I was like, I'm single. I'm, trying to do the retreat and the movement, and I have a lot of moving parts. But shall I ever go down that road, I will definitely connect with you. Can't wait to have your book and read your book
Yes, thank you.
journey, because I know that my family has. And you're right. We've adopted. I've had cousins come and stay with us. My siblings have gone to stay with family members. That is just a form of adoption.
Mm-hmm.
When I got my house, and it's just me, I'm in a 4-bedroom, 3.5 bath house. But what God told me was that this house was not about me. It
Mm-hmm.
was about being a shelter for those who need it. And
That's right.
I've had so many people come and stay with me, almost being on the brink of homelessness and, just other situations. And I think about that as far as adoption. Someone out there, a child, a newborn, a 5, 6, 7-year-old, a boy or girl, needs somebody to love. So I just want to encourage all of our listeners who may not have even ever considered it. Deborah, they can reach out to you if they have more questions about your journey or about adoption.
Yes, please. I do ask that you follow us on social media. Definitely visit our website. Our website will provide you with a lot of, again, resources that we've used through this process. There's some swag, if I can talk about that as well.
Yes.
We have the Joshua mug. Well, there, Joshua 19. We have T-shirts and things of that sort as well that you can find on our website. I'm rocking this one T-shirt that my bestie made from Met Design. And here's another Joshua 19 as well.
Wow.
And just engage with us on social media. What we really want to do is just put people in a position to love and live out loud. Do not live in a place of fear. We're not saying that everyone is, ready or even open to adoption, but just be in a position to foster possibly, right? You mentioned your home and just having it as a safe space for people to come and find shelter. When I lived in Beverly, it was the same for me. I had a 6-bedroom home. I was like Lackawanna Blues. Anybody that needed help, come and live with Deborah, but that's what we're here to do.
We
We're
are.
here to be a blessing for others. It's not about us. We're to serve.
Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't a second thought, when my sister called me. And as far as considering it, I'm like, what do I have to do? Like, how can I help? And so she's young. She has 3 kids, probably under the age of 6, her mentee. So, kids, and I'm number 10 of 11. And so, and we still took people in, and we didn't live in a mansion. So I'm glad it's a part of our culture. I'm glad it's a part of our nature. I am so happy that you are getting the word out and, taking the stigma off of adoption, and, all foster homes are bad, and, all foster homes have bad stories. And so there are some of us, I think, who are out here who may be able to and need to consider, just being a village to a child in need. So thank you, Deborah. Wow, what an amazing story.
Thank you so much. This was great. I really appreciated it.
Good. Thank you so much. Well, any other questions for Deborah before we finish our show? We've been on for 43 minutes. I told you, girl, I never know how long these shows are going to be. I just let go and let God. So trying to get out some good information. So, hey to everybody, Valerie Tyler and Claire Dina and Tanisha. So many people said hi to you, Deborah. I don't know if you can, I don't think you can see the comments, but yes. So, somebody even said Roseland in the house. So
outside, wild hundreds, honey.
So this is how to get a hold of Deborah. You guys can reach her on social media. Definitely follow her. Oh, what's your website, Deborah? You mentioned the website, but how do they get the swag?
Yes, it's myjourneytojoshua.com.
I'm going to put that in the chat. myjourneytojoshua.com. All right. I put that in the chat for you guys to see. And go and buy some swag. I like that shirt. I'm going to have to hit you up on one of those.
Designs.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much again. I'll have to have you back once the book is out so we can do some book sales. Yeah, we'll definitely have to have you out so we can do some book sales and make sure that we support you. All right. Well, thank you, Deborah. We'll see you next time, probably really soon. And hopefully I'll be seeing you in Africa. Don't go away. I'm just going to take you backstage. All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed today's show with Deborah Olivia Farmer on adoption. This month has been all about self-love and forgiveness. Deborah had the love that she needed in her heart to love Joshua. What an amazing story. What an amazing journey. Hey, reach out to her on social media if you've considered it, ever thought about it, fostering and or adopting. I'm sure that she'll be able to give you some information and some resources. Well, as you know, like I said, I'm ending my 50th birthday celebration all month long. It was February 9th to March the 9th. I'm raising money for the I Am That Woman movement and for Desiree Rhodes Whitley, who just had a kidney transplant last month. So a dear, dear girlfriend and sorority sister of mine, during our birthday set, my virtual birthday celebration, Desiree came on and told us about her journey. So I just want to make sure that sorry, I am trying to multitask here. I just want to make sure that you know how to donate. You can donate by just doing a text to donate, 41444. Text IATWM to 41444. I'm trying to pull up the graphic here because I have multiple screens. So you know that. In the meantime, don't forget Monday morning mindfulness. We want to make sure that you know how to join us for Monday morning mindfulness. Me, Dr. Portia Lockett, come on, meditate, start your day in mindfulness. It's the best thing that you can do, help you get through your day. You definitely want to join us on Monday mornings, 5:30 a.m. for meditation, 6 a.m. for prayer. It's all over our social media, so join us there. So if you want to donate, I'm going to put this graphic up. So thank you. No donation is too small and or too big. Our goal is $5,000. I know you guys can help us. We're not even halfway there yet. I'm going to share this real quick so that you know what to do. Text to donate, IATWM, to 41444. Thank you, Valerie Tyler. And those who have already made a contribution, thank you, Tyree and Shiree and Valerie and some others on here who I know have made a contribution. Kathleen, and as I'm scrolling through the list, but if you haven't already, please, again, $25, $50, $100. Let's help Desiree in her road to recovery with her kidney transplant. And also help the I Am That Woman movement. We have a diaper drive where we have connected with Family Rescue to help women who are suffering with domestic violence. So we would appreciate you till March 9th. Help us reach that $5,000 goal. All right, my earplugs keep falling out. I love you guys. I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. Join us next week. March is Women's History Month, and we are going to be talking about the power of our voice, the state of our well-being. We're going to have some amazing ladies to join us and talk about the power of our voice in politics, the power of our voice in healthcare, and the power of our voice in our community. So you want to make sure that you watch out for our lineup. Thank you so much. I appreciate all of your time today. Enjoy your weekend. Much love. Mwah. Bye-bye.